Here we are again, and the conversation continues. Welcome to another episode of the DMGB conversation. It doesn't matter, get better. And just continuing to roll through here. I think this is going to be episode 5 for us now. So, really excited about the guests that we've had on. And this one is going to be a doozy because with me today, I've got a friend of mine. Really excited to welcome Larry Long Jr., a Maryland Terrapin, or the Terrible Turtles, as we like to call them when we were at Florida State. Ball player, instructor, sales leader, energy injector, and just an overall awesome dude. The way I met Larry it was commonalities on LinkedIn and pulled it off and had a virtual coffee. So, Larry, welcome to the conversation.
Man, happy to be here. Appreciate it, Mark. Happy to be seen.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited about this conversation. So just the way I do with everybody that we bring on the show, kind of give us the short story, hitting the major points of where you started, where you are now, and how you got to that point.
Man, you're putting me on the spot. Short story. Ooh, you ain't very long for a reason. But now I'll give you the cliff notes. Born in Baltimore, Maryland. My father ran track at Maryland. My sister, 10 years younger than me, she ran track at Maryland. Family of Terps. Grew up in VA medical centers. So my father worked for the VA, traveled around a lot. Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Danville, Illinois, Grand Island, Nebraska, Coatesville, Pennsylvania, went to elementary school at Rip Hamilton, and then finally Columbia, Maryland. Played baseball at University of Maryland. Go Terps, baby. And then went to Accenture, did IT consulting for 3 years, and realized that wasn't God's plan for me. So I transitioned, opened up an indoor baseball and softball academy here in good old Raleighwood, North Kakalaki. And when that failed after a year and a half, ran out of money, had to transition back to the real world. And I've been working for tech companies, big tech companies, mid-sized tech companies. And I've really found my sweet spot in the startup, kind of small entrepreneurial startup. Right now, I lead a collegiate team at Teamworks, and we sell software to athletic teams. So I get to combine my love for athletics, my love for sports, and my love for helping and leading other folks, specifically sales professionals.
Awesome, man. I think, the audience is obviously going to feel your energy just jumping through the screen, which when we hopped on our first call, I was like, man, I think my computer might explode because the both of us were just at 100 the whole time. So yeah, I'm really glad to have you here because I think everybody's going to really enjoy meeting you and hearing that story. But I think, jumping out at me right away is, wow, man, so many stops along the way in your childhood. And I grew up in one place my whole life. My parents were split, so I had 2 houses, but I grew up in South Florida. So like I was here my whole life. Later in my life, in my coaching career, I was, a new city every year is what it felt like. But kind of talk to us about what it was like growing up, moving around a bunch, and kind of how that shaped you as a young man.
Yeah, it taught me a lot. My favorite song my mom used to sing, make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver while the other is gold. I had to learn to be flexible, adaptable. When you're in grade school, elementary school, middle school, kids can be ruthless. So you really got to find that way to connect. I mean, I'll tell you a funny story. Growing up in Alabama, we moved from Tuscaloosa to Coatesville, Pennsylvania. They heard me speak. They said, Larry, how old are you? Little Larry, how old are you? I said, I'm 4. They said, 4 what? I said, I'm 4 years old. They said, oh, heck to the nah. You can't talk like that. You'll get teased out of the school. So really all those stops along my journey have made me who I am. I've never met a stranger, able to adapt and really relate to all kinds of people. And at the time it was tough. It's like, wow, we got to move again. I got to say bye to my friends. But looking back at it, it really was a blessing that's allowed me. I mean, even in my professional career, I've had 10 different stops. It's like, whoa. Personally, you moved around, and professionally, you still continue. It's kind of like a world tour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand that. And I think, obviously, like you talked about, the way you're able to just adapt to somebody. I mean, I love that. I've never met a stranger. Your energy is infectious. So like as soon as somebody meets you, they feel warm and welcome to you, which is really cool. But so when did you know that you wanted to play baseball? When did baseball become like a dream for you, playing college baseball? How did that kind of transition through your life?
Yeah, from a youngster, just grew up loving sports. My dad, big sports fan. I remember him training. He was a long jumper, triple jumper. He's a little dude. I mean, I'm 5'9". I round up to 6, but his nickname was 40 long. He was shorter than me, but just loved sports. I actually love football. My parents never let me play football. My mom said, "Look at your dad, how he's messed up in the head. You're never going to play football." Played basketball, loved baseball. It was probably right around middle school when my parents bought me a solo hitter. And I remember just hitting, and they pretty much said, if you want to play high school baseball, you got to put in that work every day. I had to come home, do my homework, practice my clarinet for 30 minutes. I wanted to play a saxophone, but my parents couldn't afford it. So they said, here goes a clarinet. Good luck being KG with that. And then take 100 swings off my solo hitter. And that was really when they said, we're going to give you the recipe, but you got to cook it up and make it happen if
you got to put the work in for it.
Next level. And that was just, watching my father, it was just a great role model. And he passed 4 years ago, but he still stays with me. And my hope is to pass that to others, that belief that you can make it through anything. And it's so timely with what we're going through now.
That's amazing, that they kind of set that blueprint for you, saying, hey, here are the tools, and here are the things that you need to do, but we can't do them for you. You got to put the work in yourself and get it done. So playing baseball in high school, how did you end up at the University of Maryland?
Oh, man, great story. I sent out letters and at the time VHS tapes to every single Division I program, pretty much saying, hey, look at me, little Larry. I'm a little dude that has plus speed and pretty I'm a hard worker. I mean, you can't when it comes to hard and when it comes to just out thinking, I'll put myself up against anybody. At the time, I was pretty cocky, but coming out of Howard County, Columbia, Maryland, we weren't on the map. So I tried to put myself on the map, and some hometown cook in Maryland, I came a knocking. They offered a little bit of money. I had some better offers, but I said, fear the turtle. My father's a Turk. I said, let's make this happen. And they gave me the opportunity. I started as a freshman, and really that just came from putting in that work. I mean, it's so cliche, but life isn't that difficult. I mean,
no doubt.
If you have the tools and resources and you put in the work, you're unstoppable. I mean, you hear stories all the time, and I challenge people, why not you? These people that are doing amazing things, they're people just like you that have taken advantage of the opportunity. They've used their resources, and there's a little bit of luck, but I'm a big believer that you work your way into your luck. There's no magic pixie dust, no magic bullet, silver bullet. It really comes to what are you doing to make it happen?
And especially in today's world where everybody is so worried, so wants the gratification right now. It's instant gratification. I wanted, like for me in my coaching career, like I started as an equipment manager in the equipment room and worked my way to being a student assistant, which, in layman's terms, that means free labor. That means, here, you come to the office, be at the office all day, every day, do anything that I ask of you, and we're not going to pay you a cent or a dime. It's your privilege to be here. And then my first job getting hired full-time at Florida State, I'm the assistant special teams coach. I think I've made it. I'm getting paid $13,000 a year. You know what I mean? I'm in like a shoebox with 4 other dudes, living in Tallahassee. And like for me, the grind to get to being a special teams coordinator at 27 years old, like people think, oh, well, you just did it, and you just, oh, you were lucky that you were with the right coaches at the right time. And, you got hired. And there were a lot of long nights. I had a rocking a beard like this just by Friday. You know what I mean? We'd play a game on Saturday. I'd be clean shaven. And by Friday, I'd be this hairy because I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating. I was studying tape and taking notes and trying to make sure I had all the information I could possibly have. But that's what laid the foundation for me to be a successful special teams coordinator, because I put in that work early on. And it's amazing just how many people just fight that or think that there's an easier way or a faster way. So I love the message of putting in the work. So played ball in college. Did you have dreams to go play in major leagues? And did you try to chase that dream at all? What was the transition from being a ball player in college to saying, okay, I got to get a job?
Yeah, it's funny. And what you just mentioned was awesome. There's an image, it's called the iceberg of success. People see success above the water, but what they can't see underneath is all the sacrifice, the hard work, the discipline, the execution, the blood, sweat, and tears that it takes to be successful. And a lot of people think, oh, it's the easy road. And we kind of live in a microwave society where boop, 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 I want it right now. And nah, it takes slow cooking. It's going to take some time. But great question in terms of the transition from college. I did want to play pro ball. I didn't get drafted after my senior year. The June draft came around and I was sitting by the phone and no one called me. And I went to some tryout camps and unfortunately just never got that call. It didn't happen. I wasn't able to make it happen. So I entered in the real world doing IT consulting, traveling with Accenture, but something was burning inside of me. I said I wouldn't feel good the rest of my life if I didn't pursue it again. So I took a leave of absence. I went to minor league spring training. I graduated in 2000, went to minor league spring training in 2001. The Dodgers and the Red Sox said, thank you for coming out. God bless you and good night. You can see your way out. And I licked my wounds. It's funny because I went to Dodgers, went to the Red Sox. They kicked me out and I went on down to Miami to drown out my sorrows with some friends on spring break. And I said, hey, it is what it is. It wasn't meant to be. I can look myself in the mirror and say, hey, I gave it my all. And now it's time for me to move forward, not look in the rear view, but keep it moving. And that's when I started my professional career, which as a career professional, just the entrepreneur and business and sales, so much of what I learned playing sports, and I know you can relate, that transition is pretty easy. I mean, being coachable, being hungry, keeping score and being accountable to it. I mean, it's been a blessing to take those skills and transition them.
The parallels are unbelievable, but I think you hit on something right there that a lot of people, it's hard for them to do, especially if it's their business. But like, you had to own the fact that your baseball dream was over. Like, and nobody else, like, they told you it was over, like, thank you, but you're not going to make it this year. But you had to accept that. You had to take the ownership and the accountability of saying, look, I've given it everything I've got. It's not going to happen. Owning that is really hard for people. Like, I talk about it all the time. You know, there are times I've been fired 3 different kind of ways. You know what I mean? I've been fired because the head coach wanted to hire a friend. I've been fired because the head coach was fired. And then I've been fired because I got myself fired and I just couldn't work with the head coach anymore. You know what I mean? But I own that. Like, that some of that was my fault. Like, me getting fired because I couldn't work with the head coach anymore, that was my fault. But me getting fired because the head coach wanted to hire somebody else, I don't have any control over that, yet it's still mine. I still own that as my responsibility and I take accountability for it. So were you just able to do that? Was that easy? Was that hard? Talk to me about that feeling of licking your wounds and being like, all right, man, this thing's really over.
Yeah, once again, I mean, I talk about how fortunate and blessed I've been. My parents instilled that in me, that you control the controllables. And what happens is, it's on you. I mean, whether it's in your control or out of your control, you can control. I heard someone use an acronym of EAT, and I love to eat. I don't miss a meal. You can control your emotions, you can control your actions and your attitude, and you can control how you treat other people. And as long as you focus on those things, you can control everything else. It is what it is. Now, you talked about that ownership and accountability. When I look for reps to join my team, I use the acronym EPIC. The E is entrepreneurial. Do you take ownership and accountability? Even if you're not the business owner, do you own Larry Long Jr. LLC? That is your business. The P is preparation and planning. Do you put yourself in a position to have success? I see you got your notebook there. You got your pen.
I'm taking notes as we speak because I don't want to miss anything that we hit. I want to make sure that as the nuggets start coming out, I got to go back to that. I got to go back to that.
That's right. The I is internal drive, which no one can teach. Either you have that burning desire inside of you to make it happen. When you get hit with obstacles, you find a way around it, find a way over it, under it. And if you have to, find a way right through it. And then the C is communication, being able to communicate verbally as well as written. So that's what I look for in top, I guess you could call them all-star sales reps, is that EPIC.
I love that, man. That's really good stuff. I'm probably gonna steal that, to just be perfectly honest with you. But you mentioned a notebook, because to me, we tell people all the time, like when they're producing content or when they're doing things, like the formula is to be genuine and authentic. Like, it's to be who you are. And I think right now, obviously now more than ever, the social media world is just exploding with content. And you can tell what's true and genuine to somebody and what's not. And so, like, I don't come in with pre-prepared questions. I find the people that I know I like, I find the people that feel right to me and that I know have a story, and then I wait for the story to come out as we're talking because that's genuine and authentic. Like I'm legitimately invested in learning about you and getting your story out to other people just because I think it's worth telling. You know what I mean? So like that's why I have the notebook, because to me this helps keep the conversation a conversation and it's not stale and just answering questions and doing that. So I appreciate you pointing out the notepad.
I feel you. I don't leave home without it.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. So you started your first entrepreneurial, venture when you opened up the coaching, and obviously I can relate to that because working with kids or just being able to pass down the knowledge that you have about the game because you did it and played it. For me, I coached around it, was around some great ones, and was able to pass on the knowledge. But talk to me about how that started, how it went, and what it was like closing the doors on it.
Yeah, so actually my first business was Lawns by Larry.
Okay.
Mowing lawns, miscellaneous lawn care services. My mom put together a one pager and said, hey, go knock on doors and make it happen. 2 years in, she said, take your sister. I'll get her dressed up in her Sunday's best. No one can deny a cute little girl. And she was right. Knocking on doors, people were like, she's so cute. But the baseball academy, oh, goodness. I was working at Accenture. A former teammate of mine shared a business plan and said, hey, this guy's looking for investment. Do you want to put 5, 10, 15,000? I looked at the business plan and I said, shoot, I don't want to just put money in. I want to join this. So
own it.
I called the guy who ended up being my partner and we chopped it up. He gave me a number. I went to the bank and said, I'm missing a couple of zeros, but where there's a will, there's a way. Essentially, I took a loan out against my 401k, had my friends and family hook me up with some loans and got into it. And for a year and a half, it was wonderful. I mean, it was doing what I love. I get to teach youngsters the game of baseball and more importantly, the game of life. Come on now. But unfortunately, we had more money going out the back door than we had coming in the front door, which was another tough learning lesson. But I learned cash is king. I mean, cash flow and understanding your numbers. The numbers I was familiar with, batting averages, stolen bases, RBIs. Those aren't the numbers you need for a business. That's the income statement, the balance sheet, and the cash flow statement. And unfortunately, meeting with our CPA, he went through it all. My eyes would be glazed. It'd go right into the file cabinet, never to be seen until our next meeting with our CPA. And that was the demise. But I tell you, it won't happen to me again. And I've been fortunate enough where now I'm an investor. I'm an angel investor in several different companies. And I make it a point to make sure I understand their numbers to know exactly what's the health of their business. Essentially, if you do a business checkup, are they flatlining or are they thriving and in great health, which takes it takes time and it takes a lot of effort, but I love it. It's kind of like my own personal Shark Tank.
That's awesome, man. I love it. I mean, to me, to be in the environment we're in right now, a lot of people are struggling. A lot of people are having a hard time finding the positivity and finding the encouragement to get going. So when I met you, I was like, oh yeah, we this has got it. We got to put this on video. Like we got to talk about this and get this going. So I think, before we wrap up, because I think this has been a phenomenal story, and obviously anybody's interested in talking to Larry, they should reach out to him and get one-on-one with him. But kind of what's your mindset right now on how you're continuing to move forward and do business? Because look, everybody's struggling, right? And you and I have talked personally about what some of your current businesses are doing and some of the hardships that are going on. So it's okay that it's not okay for everybody in the world right now. But what's your mindset to keep your energy the way it is, to stay positive the way it is, and to keep moving forward?
That's a great question, Mark. Every day that we wake up is a blessing, and we have a choice. I can choose to wake up and say, woe is me. I can't believe that this COVID-19 is here, and I can't believe it's impacting business and my family, 2 kids homeschooling, wife working, telling me, shh, you're too loud. Or I can make a choice and say, hey, this is an opportunity for me to learn, grow, network, meet great people like you, and really use it as a time to up level, which we should be doing anyway. But this is a perfect opportunity versus woe is me. So every day I wake up, I make it a goal to learn something new. It was talked about on the on the huddle this morning. 1% every day is you look at it over the course of a year, you're a whole new person.
And the
You're a
attitude of
brand new
gratitude.
you.
I mean, you said it. Every day you wake up, you're grateful. Attitude of gratitude allows you to accept today as an opportunity to go chase greatness. You know, we talked about it before, but there is no complacency. There is no maintaining. That is an illusion for people that aren't willing to put in the work to get better. You have to go after it every day. You got to look for opportunity. You got to uncover the opportunity. You've got to put in your energy and effort and your capital, your personal capital, your body and your will and your mind. You got to invest it into the day in order to get anything out of it. So always a pleasure, my friend. I really appreciate you joining me on this thing. I encourage everybody who sees this to reach out to you for a one-on-one conversation, because even if it's just that injection of energy and positivity, everybody needs it. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you for having the conversation with me, and I will talk to you soon. Stay on the ball.
Thank you, Mark.